Hello, and welcome to Better Betting. Here are your hosts, the king of Timonium, Gary Quill, and the ruler of the replays, Eric Rubin.
Hey, and welcome to Better Betting. My name is Eric Rubin, and I'm here with my partner, the king of Timonium, Gary Quill. GQ, how be you?
Well, it's midweek, Eric. Sun's shining. I'm on vacation next week. But the news broke today that a lot of major players who provide horse racing content are in a feud. And it affects both you and I, even though we use different providers. But before we even jump on that, if we wish to jump on that topic, I just want to thank everyone who is back watching and listening to us from our week one return to last week's show. We increased our viewers fivefold and our subscribers by threefold, I believe. So thank you, everyone. And if you're a first-time viewer, thanks a lot. Give us at least one show. And if you haven't subscribed, it's not going to cost you anything. Just hit the subscribe button, and we only do this once a week for a few months out of the year. We just like to enlighten you as far as horse racing goes. But so much for the intro and the administrative stuff. I've already killed 3 minutes of our target 30-minute. So we're behind schedule already.
That's great. Anyway, don't worry about it. Yeah, had a fun week at Monmouth. Unfortunately, not too successful monetarily. I was live. I don't know if I told you. I might have been messaging you, but I was live for a pull shot in the pick 5, and of course, the horse that I needed for the pull shot broke poorly in speed horse. Then raced like a crazy trip. Got up toward the leaders and faded, so that sucked. And I was live for a lot of money all weekend and just didn't work out. Saratoga Sunday killed me. That nose loss, I forgot the name of the horse. Louis Saez on a 3-horse in one of the turf races. Can't remember the name. If that horse wins, I'm not kidding. It turned out it would have been over $50,000 by a nostril. So it's been very, very frustrating few days for me. But I did have a nice time at Monmouth. Some nice restaurants, some good company. And we digress and move on. We're going to be covering the Saratoga late pick 5 for Saturday. So GQ, it starts with race 9. You want to tell our listeners about it?
Sure. Race 9 starts late pick 5, and it's the 1 1/16 mile Lure Stakes. Lure was an awesome Breeders' Cup winning, I think 2-time Breeders' Cup winning turf horse, and thankfully they named at least one race after Lure. So it's on the inner turf, which typically they run the distance races on the inner turf and the sprints on the outer turf, so the turns aren't so sharp for the horses that are beating ass into the turn. So if you ever wondered about that, there you go. I just gave you a little hint on that. So I'll let Eric start off with his opinions, analysis, and insights for the first leg, late pick 5 on Saturday at Saratoga in the $135,000 Lure Stakes.
Thanks for that great background information. So I guess the race, we can begin with the 9, More Than Looks. More Than Looks coming off of the Breeders' Cup Mile last year. Didn't embarrass himself. He was in the race. He had put up some big figures. Just visually was extremely impressive. Winning on September 30th at Churchill, the Jefferson Cup. And again, didn't embarrass himself in the Breeders' Cup. So the question is, what do you do with this horse? Well, a couple things. Since I'm really looking, especially in a pick 5, but not solely, you think about the other legs, and obviously I've looked at the other legs as of you already, and there's going to be some chalks that I might want to use. So if I can find an excuse to beat a favorite, I'm going to in general. And the fact that this horse has not run in a year, or 8 months, 9 months, whatever it is. The fact that the horse is a closer, which means he will need some kind of setup or at least a trip, I'm willing to play against more than looks in this spot. While I respect the horse a lot, I'm hoping he's not ready off the comeback. And as far as pick 5 goes, if you're trying to beat a favorite, it's not the worst thing in the world to spread a little to beat the favorite, unless there's one horse you happen to love and think is going to win or something like that. But for the most part, I'm going to spread a little bit here. Today's a good lesson in that. I was griping to you. I don't want this to be a gripe session for me, as it already was about Monmouth, but and Saratoga Sunday. But today I missed 2 pick 5s at Saratoga, basically because I didn't like a favorite in 2 different legs. One in the early pick 5, one in the late pick 5. I didn't like the favorite, and I went to beat the favorite, and I used several horses, but not enough. And I actually didn't have the winner. So if you were watching Prince James, I did not use, which is going to cost me a decent amount of money. Or a lot of money, not using him, and despite going 5 deep to beat the chalk in a 9 or 10 horse field. So if you don't like the 9, you want to spread a little, it's not the worst thing in the world for a pick 5. Scrolling up right now, the horse that I like the most, which I'll key a lot of bets around, is the 1 Kubrick for Chad Brown, 8-1 with Frankie Dettori. This is a horse who ran pretty well at Tampa. I really like that race. Got off to a slow start, was squeezed back early, and I thought ran pretty well 3 back at Tampa. Then goes to Keeneland on the yielding turf. He chased an 8-1 shot, who was Emmanuel, who's a solid horse, who would be one of the favorites in here probably. So chased a solid horse, and Emmanuel finished 5th. So the pace, I don't want to say collapsed, but it was a honest pace to say the least on the yielding turf. And then last race, I remember that race because Ice Chocolate, I think, surprisingly went to the lead in a paceless race on paper, and basically there was no pace. So I can't expect Kubrick to close against better horses also in grade 3. So I just think that going against, and last race, I mean, it was really like a grade 1 race, that poker. It was a grade 3 on paper, but you had Casa Creed, who made his last start, a horse who you and one of our former guests, who I won't say, called the Hanger, but one of my favorite horses the last 5-10 years. Casa Creed was in that race. Talk of the Nation, who I believe is the grade 1 winner, was in that race. In fact, since I'm sharing my screen, I can just click on it. Why not? Instead of just trying to go through memory. This was the poker last time. So you had Ice Chocolate, who stole the race basically up front. You can see 1, 2, 3. They kind of stayed there if you're watching this on YouTube. Carl Spackler was in the race. I think he was off a layoff that race. But this was a monster race. So I can't expect Kubrick to do much, plus no pace to help him. So I really like Kubrick a lot. And what I'll do in pick 5s, on one ticket, I'll be singling Kubrick at least. But in general, I'll be spreading here. And just quickly go to the other horses that I like and I'm going to spread with. In no particular order, I guess number order. The 4 Irish Aces, who last time ran here at the meet already a couple weeks ago, July 13th in Saratoga. And in that race, I just want to flip my page. I'm looking on the screen here, but I got my notes on the written sheet. That was a race where Irish Aces looked like he would be pretty tough. And I forgot the sequence exactly, but I vaguely remember saying, I think there was another favorite in the sequence who scratched, and it looked like Irish Aces was going to be the main singled horse in that sequence. And Irish Aces ended up going off, I think from a 2-1, maybe morning line, went off even money, and just didn't get up. And I thought I wouldn't like Irish Aces here, but when I look back at the race, got squeezed early, lacked room in the stretch, would have won, granted against weaker horses, but would have won that race. So I would upgrade Irish Aces last performance. So that's a horse I would want to use. Another horse I want to use is a 7, Pioneering Spirit, who also is coming off a less than ideal trip. I'll save everyone the long explanation, but between hopping at the start and getting trouble later in the race, I would upgrade that performance. And I wasn't sure what to do with Pioneering Spirit, who just ran really a week ago, basically, here at Saratoga. He got really hot last year at Saratoga, and it looked like a horse for the course, and has slowly not run as well, and maybe isn't in the same form, but seems to be rounding maybe back into form. Loving Saratoga too, can't hurt, and off of a not so great trip last time. I think that's a horse worth using. And then Smoking Tea was the other one, the 8 horse, who ran, I thought, pretty well 2 back. 2 back in the opening verse, was kind of tight on heels and really pulling for almost the whole race, was never really comfortable. Then last race, June 1st, went into Arlington, a grade 3 race against Ottoman Fleet, who's pretty good. Irish Aces happened to be in that race, chasing the crown. I can forgive that race against a little bit tougher. And for 6-1 price, I'm okay using Smoking Tea here, who won this race last year. If you go back to the lore, August 5th right here. I don't know if this highlight will work, but won that race right there. So those are the horses I'm going to use. Possibly the 5 Big Everest as a speed horse, who I don't love, and possibly the 2 Forever Super if I want to go really deep. But I'm basically 1, 4, 7, 8, king the 1, trying to beat the 9. If you like the 9, I can't blame you. I have a lot of respect for the horse, but again, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, I'm hoping to try and beat that horse. As far as verticals, again, I'll take a stab against the 9 if he's 2 to 1 or shorter. If he goes out like 3 to 1, I don't really want him, but it makes it less less appetizing, if you will, to bet against him if he's not a short price. But if one Kubrick's 8 to 1, I'll even bet win bets. If we talk about some other races here, I don't know if I'm betting doubles or pick threes as we get to the other race, but I'll definitely key the 1. So betting the race, I would do something with exactas. Like I might box depending on the prices. I don't know if I have box 1, 4, 7, 8. Probably not, because there's not huge prices there. It's possible I would box those 4, but then I key the 1. So I do 1 with the 4, 7, 8 and exacta boxes, and I'd probably do a 50-cent triple box 1, 4, 7, 8 just in case it comes in, and then key the 1. So 1 with 4, 7, 8 and triple boxes, and I would probably throw the 2 and the 5 in a little bit in those bets as well with the 1. And that's how I'd approach this race, try and beat the 9. And the 9 wins, I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm hoping to catch him not ready. GQ, sorry, I'll be shorter in the other races. That was one of the few where I had a fairly strong opinion on the horse, so I went a little longer. Sorry about that. But go ahead if you want to add your 2 cents or 10 cents, whatever you have
no,
on
that's
the
fine.
race.
No, in the interest of time, I'll just add, I also like Irish Aces, the 4 horse, 5 to 1, 3rd race off of the layoff, has best lifetime Brisnet turf figures for the distance, which is also the best among anyone in this race. For the price, you had mentioned the horse, the 7 horse, Pioneering Spirit. Oddly enough, and these races, because they're stakes races, or you have the high level allowance or optional claiming races, you have horses that have run in stakes without Lasix, and then they've run in non-stakes races with Lasix. And true, some horses it doesn't matter, but obviously in some it does matter. And last Sunday at Saratoga, I can't recall the horse's name, but went off at a decent price and just missed coming up the rail to get nosed out from a spot. And what I saw about that horse was the horse is back on Lasix after running like the last 8 races without Lasix. And you look at the past performances, and in the 2 races the horse had run on Lasix, it won or ran second. So maybe a coincidence, maybe not, but these are just the kind of things I look at deeper into the PPs than maybe others might based on time. So that's why I'm here to point those out and take it for what it's worth. So if you have nothing more to add, we'll move on to the 10th race.
Go for it. You want to introduce
Okay.
it?
Yeah, the 10th race, second leg of the late pick 5 at Saratoga on Saturday, is the 5.5 furlong turf sprint. It's the grade 2 Troy. Now, I'm not sure if this is named after the city of Troy. I definitely know it's not named after a New York bred horse by the name of Troy, who won 2 races out of 36 lifetimes. So I think I'm safe saying that. But anyway, we have the grade 2 Troy stakes. And Eric, you can take it from here with your opinion.
Yeah, we'll give the city of Troy a shout out. That's where our friend Mr. Ed hangs out for the summer. So Ed, give you a shout out here. He's like, let me find the furthest city that I can stay for the same price as Malta, and place is 10 minutes away. But just kidding, Ed. But yeah, the married in Troy, if you're up there, make sure you look for our friend Ed, because he's there almost the whole summer. Anyway, this race goes through obviously Cogburn. Just scrolling down for those who are watching. Sorry for those listening. But Cogburn coming off some monster races. The Jaipur, which was his last race, and I mean, that was a good field. That was a monster field. Those were like all the sprinters you want. Arzak, who I singled last year at Saratoga, I think it's 17 to 1 when I was actually with Ed, so he's my witness. And had Starlight Mystery, who I love. So I was up there for this. This was Belmont Stakes Day at Saratoga, and I love Star of Mystery. Love that horse. It was a filly taking on the older boys, not just the boys, but the older boys. And she ended up having some trouble in that race, comes back to win easily in her next race. But that was a monster race. And Cogburn, I thought, ran really well. I mean, it's almost like Silver Knot the other day. I just have no desire to beat Cogburn. Now, think about it. If you can beat Cogburn, you're going to get paid because you have some big fields here where people want to spread. And Cogburn is going to be a single on a lot of tickets. So if you can beat Cogburn, you're going to get paid. But kind of like Silver Knot the other day, I just feel like I just don't want to burn money trying to beat a horse. It's not like he beat a bad field. It's not like he just had an easy lead. He's got speed where he doesn't need the lead. He can make his own trips. I don't need to wax poetic about a 4 to 5 shot here, but I'm not trying to beat Cogburn. As far as if I was trying to beat some of the other horses I like, or vertically, if I'm going to bet the race with Cogburn on top. The other horses I think are interesting. Scrolling back to number 1, Mischief Magic. I've pretty much bet against every race that this horse has been in the United States. Bet against her in the Shakertown as a favorite, bet against her in the Turf Sprint when he was a favorite, bet against him in the Jaipur where he was 4-1. And so far hasn't really cost me necessarily, at least pick 5 wise or pick 4 or pick 3. But finally, A, you might get a little price on this horse. And B, he's coming out of that Cogburn race. That's the race to come out of. I mean, that was like all the big names were there, all the top sprinters, in my opinion. So this horse has not really had a big pace to close into. It hasn't been like they've been walking up front, but there hasn't been a really, really contested pace. Last race was fast, the time, 21:43, as you can see, but it wasn't like it was an all-out duel up front. So, and the race fell apart. So I think if you get some pace here, which again, it's New York, you probably won't, but I think Mischief Magic could do something here if he gets a pace finally, or a contested pace, and the race finally falling apart for him. So I think at 6-1, he's worth it. The other horse, Outlaw Kid, at 15-1, I thought might be interesting. Again, it's just such a big step up in class. I thought ran pretty well last time at Aqueduct or Backwaduct, whatever you want to call it, on July 4th. Wasn't a race that necessarily fell apart. Again, you see 21:43, you think, oh, the race fell apart. It didn't. I thought he outran Big Invasion. Big Invasion had no excuse. Big Invasion usually has a lot of excuses. That race had no excuse, in my opinion. So Outlaw Kid, I thought was interesting. And then there's 2 more I'll talk about real quickly. Number 10, Whitty, who, again, this might be too tough a field, at least with Cogburn at the top, but Whitty's a darling of the Mid-Atlantic, so maybe you like Whitty over there, GQ, being a Mid-Atlantic guy yourself. But this horse run really well at Laurel, Pimlico, tracks like that, in stakes races there, and has acquitted himself very well. So there's a step up. But last time in the Highlander Stakes up in Canada, grade 2, I don't know if you account for Canadian inflation. I usually downgrade, so like a grade 2 in Canada is like a grade 3 in the US. Am I going to offend my Canadian friends if I say that? I don't know, but no, I'm just kidding. But Filo di Ariana, who has run in the big races that kind of Arzak and Cogburn have run in. Now, Filo di Ariana in those races was always like 20 or 30-1. I like that horse in those races, so I'm kind of upset I missed her or him at in the Highlander because I didn't see that race or pay attention. But my point is that Whitty, I thought, ran really well because I thought there was really no pace in that race, and Whitty still made up ground in that race. So I think Whitty has a chance here. Again, Cogburn might be too tough, but I think Whitty has a chance to run next to Cogburn as well as anyone. And then one horse I just want to mention, probably has no chance, but it's a horse I really liked, and that's the 5 Mischievous Angel at 30-1. There's a horse who I singled 2 back. I remember I was shopping at CVS, believe it or not, and I had bet the pick 5, late pick 5, April 28th. Must have been a weekend. And I singled Mischievous Angel. I love the race that she ran as a 2-year-old, at least her first race as a maiden. And I was like cursing. I'm watching on my phone in CVS. I was alive for a decent amount of money to him. And I'm cursing Flavian Pratt for waiting so long. What's he doing? What's he doing? And he got in time, just in time. He got up, and I ended up hitting something there. I forgot if I paid a lot or not. I think it was like a couple thousand I got, but whatever it was a nice thing. So he comes back in the next race where I kind of liked him again, but then I saw the price. So I don't even know if I bet him that race because of the price, maybe the early pick 5 because I couldn't see the odds. But anyway, ran fine. I mean, didn't do as well as I would have liked, but I thought that was a race that favored speed and just had no pace to close into. So Again, I know you see 21:43, but that really wasn't that strong of a pace, and speeds held. So to me, this is probably too big of a step up, but the horse has upside, and I want to use this horse in bets. So while I'm probably not going to try and beat Cogburn, those are the horses I'm going to use with Cogburn, the 1, 2, 5, and 10. And as far as vertical, I'll probably box 1, 2, 5, 10 for $1 in exactas and 50-cent triple. And I know that might be a waste of $12 and another $12, $24, but I'm going to do that in case Cogburn doesn't run a lick, because they're going to pay a fortune if they come in. But then in the other bets, I'll just put Cogburn on top of those horses in triple, supers, perhaps exactas, depending on the odds. Like, I like Cogburn, and then I don't know offhand who the second choices are. I guess Magic, the one horse, is the second choice, or maybe I won't do all that because of the odds. I'm not sure, but that's kind of how I would approach this race. It's a race I'm either gonna do what I just said, or even sit out of, and probably single Cogburn in the pick 5. So I know I said I'd be quicker, and then I ended up taking a long time. I'm sorry, GQ. You want to add your thoughts on the race?
No, I'm going to just put somebody else in the winner's circle by saying this. Usually I would think most handicappers looking to beat the favorite because they're all looking for value. Okay. And you have a 4 to 5 favorite here, but I'm looking up and down these past performances, and the only other speed I see in this race outside of Cogburn is the 3 Dancing Buck, who ran in the Jaipur and didn't have any issues getting out of the gate or whatever. And here's a horse that's usually first or second right out of the gate, and within the first 100 yards couldn't keep up. So with everybody else in here being a closer or mid-pack, how does Cogburn lose this race? I'll tell you how, just because I just said that he can't lose the race. So single Cogburn at your own peril based on what I just said. Am I wrong as far as this pace scenario? I challenge anybody to please put in the comments so you can go down in history by calling me out and tell me who is going to challenge Cogburn on the front end. I don't see it.
I don't know. I mean, you mentioned one of them, but it's just gonna be, even if they challenge Cogburn, you can sit. So again, I don't want to spend a half hour more, talking about a race where I like the 3 to 5, 4 to 5 favorite.
Exactly.
But that's fine. You want to move on, or I didn't mean to cut you short right now. I'm not trying to be mean.
No. We will move on to the feature race of Saturday afternoon at the Spa, race 11, which is leg 3 of the late pick 5, Saratoga. It's the grade 1, $1 million Whitney, and it features a rematch of the winner from the Met, National Treasure, and Post Time, who is trying to stretch out to a mile and an eighth.
Yes, and how much is the purse?
$1 million.
Well, the good news is if Austin Powers, if they make an Austin Powers 8 and Mike Myers is no longer with us to make that movie, maybe we can use that clip and send it into Fox Studios, whoever made the movie, and get you a role there. Yeah,
and then maybe we could get somebody to have a cameo, maybe a jockey. Oh, I don't know, Florent Giroux.
All right.
Meanwhile, let's work on that sponsorship from CBS since you threw in that.
Yes, if CBS wants to sponsor us, I have a fabulous trip. I was able to use my CBS savings of 8 cents or something like that off, but I rounded up to be nice for the charity, so I lost money on it. But no, anyway. So the Whitney.
So tell us how a 9 to 5 favorite National Treasure will not win this race.
Well, I hope not, but. So looking at my pick 5, as I go through it, I'm looking at the first leg, race 9. I'm going to spread, try and beat the favorite. I'm going probably 5 deep. In the next race, I'm probably just going to single Cogburn, who's going to be a big chalk, almost turning it into a pick 4. So I don't want to go too deep in other legs here. But anyway, so race 11, you look at National Treasure, the 9 to 5 favorite. Now there's a 12-horse field on paper. I'm sure there'll be some scratches because it's too good to be true to have 12 horses in the dirt Grade 1 race. I don't think it's happened since, other than the Kentucky Derby ever, at least in the last 20 years. So I hope it holds together the field. But I mean, National Treasure, I don't know what to do with National Treasure. I like races where I either love the favorite or preferably hate the favorite. And I don't like races where I'm ambivalent on the favorite. I kind of like the favorite. I think the favorite's going to be tough. I don't really want to try and beat the favorite, but at the same time, I don't love the favorite. So National Treasure. Now, last race, the Met Mile, I don't think it was the toughest race, toughest Met Mile ever. White Abarrio, I believe, was a horse in the race who I'm going to click on it for those watching just to make sure. White Abarrio was in the race. And White Abarrio to me was a horse who showed signs of maybe tailing off. And I think kind of tailed off here. So I'm not going to give too much credit for beating White Abarrio. And while I think Hoist the Gold is a nice horse, not grade 1, let me click on Hoist the Gold. Not that it really matters, but grade 1, 6th, 4th, 8th, 3rd in a grade 1, so at least grade 1 place. So not to knock Hoist the Gold, but my point is, I don't think National Treasure beat the toughest field that time, and it was a track that was friendly to speed, that Belmont Stakes weekend up at Saratoga. So I'm not going to be like, oh my God, he won the Met Mile in such big fashion. But even if you take that race away, I thought he ran really well in the races before that National Treasure. I thought the Pegasus World Cup ran really well under pressure, and I thought even in the Saudi Cup, he chased Saudi Crown, who again, is a horse that was maybe starting to tail off and not the same, but, still was in a pace battle there. So I thought that that National Treasure, I'm sorry, the Saudi Crown he chased in the Saudi Cup, he chased Saudi Crown, who held 4th. So I didn't love that race as much. I love the Pegasus World Cup. So, I mean, you can argue that if I downgrade the last race, then I can play against this horse. And I almost am ignoring the last race. So I'm torn because the Pegasus World Cup, Breeze Cup had an easy lead too, so I downgrade that a little bit. I don't know. There is a horse I like though in here, and I want to get to that one, and then we'll come back to National Treasure maybe. And I hate liking closers, but I'm hoping there's some pace here. And a horse I like is a 7, Croupier at 15-1 on the morning line. There's a horse at 15-1. I'll definitely be betting to win. I'm not a huge win bettor, but I'll definitely be betting this horse at 8 and close to 15-1. This is a horse who I think as a 4-year-old is just getting better and better and better. Won the Suburban 2 back, and I thought ran very well in that race. And then last race, he was checked early. There really wasn't much pace in the race. 1 mile and 3/8. Maybe that's even further than he wants to go, but I don't really know for sure. Cutting back to 1 mile and 1/8 here. So I just think this horse ran really well to close into not much pace. And, next, if is a monster going 1.5 miles, 1 mile, 3/8, you're not going to beat that horse at that distance. You make that 1 mile and 1/8, maybe it's a different story. But I thought Croupier ran really well. No shame in defeat to next, even though lost by a wide amount. But again, there really wasn't much pace in the race. The horses, I can click on the race for those who are watching the YouTube just to see the chart here. And you can see, the horse that was first, Drake's Passage, held on for 3rd. The horse who was 2nd was next. He stalked the leader and won. The 3rd place horse at 23-1, Mask Parade, held on. Now, if you look, the prices, the horses in the back were all the long shots, so they probably weren't going to close anyway. But the point is that I thought Croupier ran really well in that race. I think he ran better than the race before. I think he's improving. And the question is, it's Saratoga. Can you actually get some pace in a race at Saratoga? And, we'll see. Obviously, National Treasure has some pace in this race. And there are some other horses that like to be forwardly placed. If I can scroll quickly, number 5, First Mission. He could show some speed. Il Miracolo is definitely a horse who shows speed. In fact, was in that Pegasus World Cup, wasn't right up on the lead, but was, somewhat close to the pace. You also have even Icarumba has a little speed. I don't know if enough, but has a little speed there. I'm sorry,
all the outside horses have speed.
Tumbarumba, yeah, Skippy Longstocking and all, Arthur's Ride shows speed. So the more I look, the more I'm like, yeah, there is a lot of speed perhaps. So all I need is 1 or 2 horses to go with National Treasure, and I'm hoping that Croupier is a horse to benefit. Now, again, I'm not singling a 15-1 shot as a closer, not because I'm against the price. Like, I have no problem singling, and you probably know from talking to me a lot, I have no problem singling a 15-1 shot. I just, a closer who needs a trip, I'd rather be a little deeper here. Perhaps on one ticket, I will press with Croupier, a couple, small tickets press with Croupier as a favorite, as a single. But there's some other horses here. Before I go on, though, I'm going to throw it over to you. I do want to mention a couple others, though, in here. So, and talk about National Treasure one more time about what I'm going to do. But go ahead, GQ, take it away.
Right. One of the things are pace makes the race, and since there seems to be, this will be a, you know, fairly honest, if not quick pace up front. I was liking Croupi as well. There's a horse that caught my eye, the 8 horse Tumbarumba, and the water gets as deep as he's jumped in his lifetime. But the thing that I liked about this horse is that over his past, the recency, he answers every challenge. No matter where they put him, he's right there. He's never been off the board in 12 starts on a fast track. I don't know if there's going to be moisture on Saturday. They're calling for possible thunder showers or whatever. But at 20-1, Tumbarumba is a horse that I'd be looking at if you're playing verticals to throw in there. He doesn't need to be on the lead. He could just be tactical. And I just like a horse that no matter where, whatever they challenge him with, he's right there. So you just don't know what his ceiling really is. So at 20-1, I'm liking Tumbarumba.
I wouldn't knock a pick like that. The other horse that I think has a very good shot is the 9 Bright Future, 5-1. It's not a huge price, but something. Ran really well in comeback race, Salvatore Mile, where he got shuffled back. First of all, it was a long layoff and then got shuffled back. Did save ground, although I don't know how good the rail is at Monmouth. This past weekend, by the way, I tweeted out any horse running within 10 pass of the rail at Monmouth this past weekend, I would upgrade next time. So I don't know what the dates are, but the end of July, what were they, 27, 28, 26, whatever it was.
27th, yeah.
Yeah, and especially as the weekend went on, just any horse that was near the rail, just upgrade because it was like quicksand. And I'm not a big bias guy, jumping to biases, but that was insane. But anyway, so I don't know how good the rail was back then. Someone told me the whole meeting hasn't been great, but I don't know if that's true or not. But regardless of that, got shuffled back, still looked beat. Even Matt Dinnerman, the announcer, kind of said, "Oh, and Bright Future trailing in the back," and then ended up closing like a monster, really exploding. Didn't beat a whole ton. I mean, I'm not going to click on it, I guess, but it wasn't like he was beating grade 1 competition or even close. But I thought that was a good comeback race, set him up well for this race. So that's the other horse I really want. The 7 and the 9 are my top 2 here. So as far as what I'm going to do, I have to make a decision. Either I'm going to go short and I'm going to go Croupi, Bright Future, and I'll suck it up and go with National Treasure and go short there. Or if I decide I'm going to kick out National Treasure, what I'll do is I'll go fairly deep to try and beat him. I'll use a 7 Croupi, I'll use a 9 Bright Future. And just real quick, I'm not going to talk much about him, but the others I would use. The 4, since I'm on him, Warrior Johnny, who I never thought I'd use, but ran really well last race in the allowance race. And I guess Phil Bauer's like, hey, let's throw him in the grade 1 Whitney. He's run so well. I don't know if he thought it would be a 12-horse race, but Warrior Johnny, again, big step up in class, but loves Saratoga, and I thought ran really well last time. Another horse I would use if I go deep is a horse who ran like crap last time, and that's Disarm, who I can see people saying, oh, it's not the same horse. And I don't love Disarm, the 2, by any means, but this is a horse I liked last time, and I bet in the Stephen Foster, and I was very disappointed with the race, but I don't want to, if I go deep, I don't want to lose this horse, especially because the horse has some ability to close, and there appears to be a lot of pace, can save ground a little bit here. So I don't want to throw out Disarm, who I really liked at the end of his 3-year-old year, and now his 4-year-old. So again, don't love the horse, but that's another horse I would use if I go deep. And I'd probably throw some others, but definitely the 2, 4, 7, 9 would be amongst the horses I would use here, trying to beat National Treasure. And again, vertically, I would key Croupi here. I'd bet Croupi to win. Even in pick 5s, despite what I do, whether I go deep or and try and beat National Treasure or go kind of short with them, I would bet extra bets with the 7 and 9, Croupi and Bright Future. Those are the 2 words I'm going to hang my hat on here. I'll bet some exactas with 7, 9 over a bunch of horses over the 7, 9, and do the same thing in the triple. So that's really where I'm banking on the 7 Croupi and the 9 Bright Future, mostly the 7 Croupi here. GQ, you want to go on or you want to add more?
No, let's move on to leg 4, which is race 12 on Saturday at Saratoga. It is a 7 furlong affair for allowance non-winners of one other than, which basically means horses who've never won 2 races or they've never won $20,000 other than a maiden, claiming, starter, state bred allowances. So for the most part, there's a field of 10 in here. 3 runners have beaten other than maidens. Where are you going, Eric?
Well, we can talk about the 2. Striker Has Dial, who, again, this is a race where I'm not against Striker Has Dial, but I don't love Striker Has Dial. He's definitely, or she, I should say, is definitely the horse to beat, in my opinion. But I'm probably going to try and beat this horse. And the way I look at it, I'm spreading in the first leg, probably about 5 deep. I'm singling a big chalk in the second leg in Cogburn. I'm probably going to spread 4, 5, maybe 6, 7 deep. I know I didn't mention all the horses, but I'm probably going to spread and beat National Treasure. That's mostly what I'm trying to do. So I'm spread 5 deep. I'm singled. I'm spread maybe 6, 7 deep, 5 deep, something like that. And then in this race, I'm going to go a little short, and I don't think I'm going to use the 2 here, Striker Has Dial. And like I said, on some tickets, I'm going to single Crouppy, and on those tickets where I'm singling Crouppy, or I said in the first leg, I'm going to single the 1 horse, the Chad Brown horse, whose name I forgot, and I can't flip back to it. I'm trying as I talk, but it's not working. What was that horse's name? Oh, Kubrick. So on tickets where I'm singling those horses, maybe I'll probably use Striker Has Dial, because it's going to be cheap. If I'm singling Kubrick, I'm singling Cogburn, I'm singling the first 2 legs. How much is my ticket going to be? Nothing. And same thing if I single Cogburn and Crouppy, that's 2 singles in a row there. So it's going to be very cheap. So I'll use Striker Has Dial with those long shots. But in general, I'm going to try and beat the horse. And there's 3 horses here who I want to use in this race. And I'll just go in number order real quickly. The first one is the 4 Zadorsky. Seemingly coming out of a cheaper race, coming out of a starter allowance race where she kind of blew away the field there. But going before that, when she ran at this level 2 back, she was coming off of a layoff from November to May. And in that race, she had a 3 to 4 wide trip. I can't read my handwriting, of course. And 3 to 4 wide trip. What am I writing here? Oh, layoff. I'm sorry, 2 back layoff. Checked early. So early in the race, I don't know if she like hot tracks or something like that, but this is the race 2 back. Sorry, on at Churchill on May 25th. She like hop tracks or jumped early in the race, a couple steps into the race. I don't know what that was. Went 4 wide, got even with the leaders before tiring late. So she was basically in the lead at the top of the stretch, Zadorsky. So I upgraded that race a lot. And then last race, yeah, the speed figure wasn't like a monster speed figure. An 80's nice, but it wasn't like towering. But she did the job and she did what she had to. And I just don't want to, hold against her. She got an 80. If she got an 86 in that race, she'd be one of the favorites here. So I'm happy she didn't put up a huge speed figure. Probably could have got a higher one. So Zadorsky is 1 horse I want to use here. The second horse I'm going to use is number 6, Misenchanted at 6 to 1. There's Dale Wilmans coming off of a maiden win, which I don't really love. Always taking horses off maiden wins. But I thought the horse ran really well last time, ran into a tough pace. I thought that pace was very, very quick. And it favored closes that race. And she made that early move into it and was able to hold on easily. I don't know what she beat exactly, but I kind of like that race there. So, and I'm not in love with these horses. You mentioned how some of them have already, won at this level, right? They have a couple wins, but I'm trying to look who, but they have multiple wins. I don't know if they won at this level per se, although some of them are up for a tag, right?
Yeah, the 1 horse has 4 wins.
Right.
The second choice, the 7, St. Benedict's Prep, has won 3 times.
Right. I guess they beat like allowance, starter allowance and claimers and stuff like that. But anyway, so it's not, I don't know if it's the toughest race for this level. If you go on average buyer figures, the buyer par for this is an 86 if you're a speed figure person. And, the top couple of horses have like 85, 86. So it's kind of even for the level. But anyway, so the 6 Misenchanted. And the other one I want to use is a horse who maybe it's more heart than head, but I have to use this horse, Wonder Ride, with Julien Leparoux. I don't know if you say that like Giroux, but Leparoux. And Wonder Ride, I was up there in Saratoga. What was that?
Frenchie.
French. Can you say that? I don't know if that's offensive, but He means it in a
Just
nice way.
just offended all the French people.
Well, I already offended Canada before, so now the French Canadians are doubly offended. I don't think too many people in France are listening. Although when we were doing the podcast, like before we took our hiatus, we actually had, it tells you like what country people are listening, and we actually like not a lot, but we had international listeners. It was like crazy. Although when I looked last time, I don't think there were international listeners, at least not in Europe and around the world.
Yeah, all the insomniacs who can't fall asleep, they turn on the podcast so they can fall asleep at 3 o'clock in the morning.
I guess so. And we are great to fall asleep to. That's a claim to fame. So
So
anyway,
maybe we can get NoDoz or a sleep medication as a sponsor. We're trying anybody.
Yes, we're adding to the list there. That's a good. Let's call them up. But anyway, Wonder Ride. What about this horse? So last year I was up at Saratoga, August 13th, I guess, because I was actually eating. I remember it said when I remember where I am when horses win. It means you don't win too much, I guess, if you remember your wins. But it was the first race of the day, first time starter. Had really good workout reports. Yet was 10-1, I think, because of Leparoux. People, for whatever reason, hate the guy. So I remember betting the horse. I don't remember exactly the bets I made. I might even singled or went very short in the pick 5. It wasn't a big field, 7-horse field, but I know I bet win and I bet some other bets with Wonder Ride that day on August 13th. And I remember I decided it must have been like the second or third or fourth day in a row I was up there because I was sick of the food at the track. So I went, I don't know if you're familiar, GQ, but right outside the Nelson Avenue gate, there's like a little stand there where they have like a grill and they have hot dogs, hamburgers, grilled chicken, whatever they have. I was eating at that place. They have a little area in the back where they have the TV set up. So I was like, I'll hang out here for a little bit. So I remember watching the race on that TV, and Wonder Ride had a really interesting ride that day. Was like, if I remember correctly, this is based on memory, not replay, but I seem to remember the horse was like all over the track, ran into like the butt of one of the horses, had to stop a little bit and had to correct himself and still won that race. Then went into the spinaway next, the grade 1 race, where he actually ran into some monsters there. Brightwork, who I believe is running. Is he in the sequence, Brightwork? I remember looking at Brightwork. I'm pretty sure. Oh, race 8. Brightwork's in the race 8, which we're not covering, but I happen to look at because I tried to look at the card and I did most of the card. Brightwork is in the test in race 8. And I don't really love Brightwork in that spot, although I shouldn't say that because now the horse will win and I'll look stupid. But anyway, Brightwork was a real good horse. And Ways and Means, who is the heavy favorite in the test, who just put up a 104 buyer the other day or a couple weeks ago. So you ran against two monsters, didn't disgrace yourself at all. Then comes off the layoff. So I can excuse that race in May at Churchill in the slop, the layoff going long. And then last race, didn't really do anything last race. I'm just checking my notes if I had an excuse. Oh, stumbled to her knees at the start, and it was a merry-go-round race. So even though she saved ground and had a really good trip, Wonder Ride, the 9-horse, in her last race, she did stumble, which could have really hurt her. And it was like a merry-go-round. You weren't closing that day. And the other thing is, her two good races were sprinting, her two best races. And her speed figure last time, despite the merry-go-round and the stumble, even though she wasn't even really a factor in the race, it was her, basically co-best speed figure. So I just think this horse is A, ready to take the next step. B, will like shortening up. C, really likes Saratoga. So Wonder Ride is the horse that I'm going to hang most of my bets on here. So basically in this sequence, if that Chad Brown horse wins race 9, whose name I keep forgetting, Stanley Kubrick, I got to remember it that way. If Krupi wins or if Wonder Ride wins, then I'm going to be, even if one of them wins, I'll be in good shape. I might not hit the pick 5 per se, but I'll definitely be making a good amount of money if they win the race. So I'm hoping for maybe greedy, get 2 of those 3 to win, or all 3 would be amazing, but even one of them I'll take to win. So those are the 3 horses that I'm going to use in this race, and I'll be pressing a little bit with Wonder Ride. So again, it's the 4, 6, and 9 here in race number 12. GQ, you want to add some thoughts?
No, the 6, Miss Enchanted, I liked her coming off of that layoff. I think they might have something special here based on those last 2 races. And for 6-1, it's the only one I'd be leaning on. These are, for the most part, you have some young horses on the outside. The 10, Mystifying. Shug has this horse that won first out 7-1, then came back 2 months later and didn't run a lick. So there's a lot of question marks for horses in these types of races. I'd lean on Miss Enchanted, and as I mentioned before, the 7 St. Benedict's Prep. I kind of like the fact that even though she lost after dueling on the lead, she was still 5 ahead of the third place horse. So, maybe she's just that and can, maybe control some of that speed, harness some of that speed, and have enough left in the end. But outside of that, I think Eric's said enough about other runners in here. So we will close out the show with the last leg of this late pick 5 at Saratoga on Saturday. Race 13, 1 1/8 mile on the turf. It's an optional claiming event, 62,500 for horses, 3-year-olds and up who have never won 20,000 twice, other than maiden, claiming, starter, state bred, or which have never won 3 races. And we have a field of 12 going if it stays on the turf. So, Eric, it's all you.
All right. So again, just starting with the favorite here, and still not used to being on YouTube here. So for those watching, I apologize. I'm a little slow getting the PPs up, but there we go. Let me scroll down a little bit. So I believe, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Freedom Trail is a lukewarm morning line favorite at 7-2. And there's a horse who was coming out of the grade 2, Hell Prince, and ran pretty well last year, just off a long layoff here. And as a animal is jumping on me. Excuse me, sir.
That's all right. I have to excuse myself for a second also.
All right. Well, I'll talk while GQ steps away here. So Freedom Trail, 7-2 morning line. And Freedom Trail, as I'm distracted, Freedom Trail, 7-2. Usually I like playing against horses like this. I said I was going to try and beat that horse in the first leg coming off the layoff, but I don't love a lot of horses in this race. We've seen a lot of these horses like Daunt, like Boys or Buoys, however you pronounce it, run many a times, and I'm just not in love with some of them. So I'm not as against Freedom Trail here as I would normally like to be. And I think the horse has a fairly good chance. Last time he was at this second level allowance level was September 21st of last year. He came in second, missing by a neck. That was a race 2 back before going in that grade 2. So he's right there at this level. I'm tempted to play against a little bit, but because I have a lot of prices, I think it's okay. And it's not like Freedom Trail's a big favorite. So I think it's okay to have Freedom Trail on my ticket, but I will be going deeper in this race. Some of the other horses that I'll use, first of all, the horse I guess I like the most would be going to the outside, and that's number 11, if I can get to him, Mondego, who's run a bunch of times here in New York already. And Mondego, 2 back, was in May at this level, coming off the layoff. The horse had run in the Twilight Derby, I guess that is, at Santa Anita, where he didn't do too well. I don't know if there was trouble or not, but anyway, May 21st off the layoff at this level. I thought he ran pretty well. It might look at first glance like, oh, he had an easy lead early and all, but I thought he was pressed a lot by Daunt, who's in this race. Daunt was 2-1 in that race, and Daunt finished 4th, although they were pretty close. But I really thought the two of them, it wasn't an all-out duel, but it was a pretty fast pace, I thought, and it helped set it up for a horse like Boys and Really Good, who ended up coming in 1-2 that race. One reason I don't like Boys in this spot or last spot either. So I thought it ran really well considering the layoff. And then last race, Mondego tried to go 1 3/8, was stalked by a 15-1 shot, who came in 5th and ended up beating him. But I thought it was a solid pace for the distance last time. So no shame in Mondego coming in 6th or fading at least last race, going a little further than he might want to go, and also setting a pretty honest pace there. So I just think the shortening of the pace, of the distance. I don't think the horse needs a lead, which will help. Has enough speed to get some position from the outside. I don't think they start too quickly on the turn, right? It's kind of like top of the stretch. So Joel has a little time to get over, and maybe you're better off having Joel not save ground because you'll probably get stuck on the rail. Even though Joel saves ground with the best of them, and when it works, it's great. He also gets in trouble doing that. But anyway, I think Mondigo is, I don't want to say the horse to beat. The one is probably the horse to beat, but I definitely want Mondigo on my ticket. GQ, before I mention one or two other horses that I'm planning on using, would you like to chime in?
Of course, there wouldn't be a show if we didn't have a horse second time blinkers, right? So that's the 7 horse, 20-1, Black Powder, coming off of the claim from Steve Asmussen barn. Joe Sharp put the blinkers on this horse at 7-1, just missed by a neck, and now comes back. Second time blinkers, favorite GQ angle. So there you go. And while I'm talking, I might as well mention number 2, California Frolic, 8-1 morning line. I like this horse because of the turf Brisnet figures, even though we're looking at the DRF, has the best one at this distance in Lifetime. I question why they have the horse in for the tag. The horse has run 4 other times at the same level, not up for the tag. Ran a halfway decent race, only missed by a length and a quarter in a grade 3, and now comes back here being offered for the 62.5. He's a 5-year-old horse. I don't know, maybe he's run its course, maybe it's a bad sign he's in for the tag. He doesn't have to be in for the tag because he didn't clear this level. So what are your thoughts on this type of move, Eric?
Well, I have to read the conditions, but for some reason, I thought he was not eligible to run without a tag. He was last time, though, on March 31st. But maybe it was because, I don't know, maybe he is eligible. I don't know. Because he did win a couple stakes races, which the purse, $75,000 purse.
Yeah, so maybe he's won the 20,000.
His first level allowance in December of 21.
Maybe he's won the 20,000.
But like you said, he wasn't up for a tag 3 back March 31st. So I'm not really sure about that. I think they're dropping because they ran him in a couple stakes races and he got fairly good trips and he didn't really, he was not far back, but he wasn't winning those races or even threatening that much. So this is just a more logical spot. And I'm not against it too, especially if he's 8-1. And if I'm spreading, then that's a horse I'm going to use in this spot. Catholic Frolic, the 2-horse. Anything else, or was that the end of it?
I think that's it for me.
And just to wrap it up here, like I said, I prefer to go deep, but for the most part, I'm going to go 111, I think, in this spot here. The 2 makes a lot of sense. The 10 makes sense. Again, I don't want all short price horses, but the 10 horse is Reckoning Force. I'm trying to scroll down as I talk. A bit wide trip last time, but I thought ran pretty well. Was a clear second on his last race, and it was at this level at Churchill. Churchill horses have been doing well, if that matters. It's also second off a layoff now. Oh, wait, wrong horse. Reckoning Force, sorry, not second off a layoff. That was the 9, Mendelssohn's March. So again, 2-3 wide. I thought ran pretty well last time. Clear second, like I said. And that's another horse I want to use. I just, like I said, I don't want to talk about every horse and be here all day. I already mentioned the 2 and specifically Mondigo, the one I like the most. But those are some of the horses I'll be using. And I'm going to try and beat Daunt. If Daunt wins, I know he's only 10-1, but I'm not going to use Daunt. I'm not going to use Boys at 6-1. So that's a horse I'm not using. If that horse wins, then I'll be out. Again, I wouldn't knock people off of these horses 10-1, 6-1, but just saying I'm spreading pretty deep on my spreading ticket here, and I'm not going to be using those horses. Mentioned Boys that I've got a really good setup to beat Mondigo a couple back, and I thought had some no real excuses. Last race, Boys, the 4-horse, did get shut off very late, but he was done by then. So maybe he would have gotten a little closer last race on July 13th, but he wasn't doing anything at that point when he got shut off late. So that's kind of like I am this race. And this is not a race I'm necessarily dying to bet. Because when I bet a race, I really want a race where I hate the favorite or I hate the second choice or something like that. And I don't hate the favorite at all here. And I don't really hate the second choice, who I guess is the 10 Reckoning Force. And I kind of like Mondigo, but I don't want to bet the 3 out of the 4 favorites or something like that in a race. I have no desire. So the only thing I might do is if I key Mondigo, if he's 6-1 on top, bet him to win and put him on top of bets. But for the most part, it's not a race I'm looking to bet vertically. And said for the most part, I'll be spreading a little bit in the pick 5, but betting extra with Mondigo and possibly the 1 as well. GQ. Sorry I rambled so much this week, but any thoughts either on that race, the sequence as a whole, anything horse racing related?
Yeah, threw it at the beginning, but we didn't get into it, thankfully. But I really do wish, for the sake of horse racing, that CDI, the parent company of Twin Spires, and Naira can put their differences aside. One's trying to squash the other, that who can puff out their chest the biggest, and the only losers in this are the horse players, because they're going to have to use multiple horse racing apps in order to bet on these different tracks, and it's hard enough as it is on horse players, let alone having to deal with this. So please, 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 somebody come to terms, or the winner is going to be DraftKings. Yes, DraftKings, your sports authority for sports betting. Maybe we can get them as a sponsor as well. I mean, DraftKings has DK Horse, and I looked today, and they still have Saratoga, so which is weird because they're GUI, the look and feel of their app is exactly like Twin Spire. So I know you're frustrated with this as well, but let's cut this short, I guess.
You mean you don't want to have like 4 different apps, so each track you have a different ADW you can bet on?
Yeah, I have like 4 different phones, 2 laptops, and a TV, which I watch FanDuel on TV, and for some reason they don't like the show Saratoga as well. So they're just noise in the background with any other tracks that I might be interested in. So
yeah. Well, one thing I didn't mention that I'll just wrap up with, I probably should have started at the beginning, but the weather for Saturday is iffy. So I hope it stays on the turf, or else a lot of what we said is meaningless. You would think they would keep at least the stakes races on the turf, but I looked at the weather right before we went on, and I think it was about a 50% chance of rain on Saturday. So let's hope. I'm looking now, it's exactly 50%. The last I read, it was like showers in the morning or rain in the morning, and then showers possible in the afternoon. So let's hope it stays on. If not, let's hope you listen to this early in the week when it came out, so that it was relevant, because when they take it off, you're not going to want to listen. But anyway, like I said, it's not about just giving out horses. It's about the thought process that goes behind it. So hopefully it's helping people out there, and feel free to let others know about our show and share the link or anything you can do to help promote us. As GQ is pointing, feel free to subscribe. We really enjoy that and appreciate that very much. Good luck at the races this weekend. Enjoy. Good luck. Ta-ta.